Good morning. Thank you for joining us for today's event, New European Bauhaus, Updates and Opportunities Ahead. It's a pleasure to see so many of you already starting to connect with us here as we explore today the future of this transformative initiative. The New European Bauhaus is not just an EU initiative, it's really an inspiration for the future. And for those who are not so familiar with the Bauhaus, it's an initiative that was launched in 2021 to translate the European Green Deal into tangible improvements in our daily lives, in our built environment, and in public spaces, and many, many more situations. Today, only 4 years later, the New European Bauhaus has become an enormous movement with hundreds of projects on the ground, a network of more than 1,500 community members from the fields of architecture, design and culture and construction and housing and many, many more. It has become a very important part of EU policy and also funding, and it's characterized by its grassroots approach and the very active involvement of people across all communities in society. Today's event is a really good chance to reflect on what the initiative has achieved so far since the launch 4 years ago, and also to look ahead. And we'll be looking at four different aspects. First of all, the consultation on, or rather the outcomes of the consultation for the New European Bauhaus Facility, which is the first multi-annual financial instrument for 2025-2027, whose roadmap will be published early next year. We'll be talking about this in more detail. We'll also be looking at the New European Bauhaus European Parliament pilot project for small entities. Small entities meaning here small municipalities and other groups that will be able to engage with the New European Bauhaus thanks to this pilot project. We'll also be looking at the New European Bauhaus Prizes and how they can support and scale up innovative ideas to create really lasting impact on the ground. And finally, we'll be looking at two new tools that have been recently developed, the New European Bauhaus Checklist and the New European Bauhaus Self-Assessment Method, which aim to make the NEB something much more practical and give it a self-guiding framework for everyone to use. Now, throughout the event, we'll be hearing from a whole variety of speakers, including from the European Parliament, the Investment Bank, the New European Bauhaus team in the Commission, from the New European Bauhaus projects on the ground. So really quite an exciting group of people for us to hear from. And in order to help everyone listening to us also participate in the event, we've set up a Slido survey for your questions. Now, we will not be addressing questions live. We have a full program, but we will look at your questions very carefully and the responses will be made available later on our website. Use the code #NEB to submit or vote on questions during the event. Now, as the New European Bauhaus continues to grow, its strategic importance was affirmed by President von der Leyen in the mission letters to multiple European commissioners, which really underscored its importance as a European priority. And this is a transition to welcoming a very important person we are really honored to have with us today, Commissioner Jessika Roswall, Commissioner for Environment, Water Resilience and a Competitive Circular Economy, who will be responsible for coordinating the New European Bauhaus within the European Commissioner. Commissioner, welcome. The floor is yours to share your vision for the New European Bauhaus.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, dear members of the New European Bauhaus, dear colleagues, it's an honor and a privilege for me to address you today as a newly appointed commissioner responsible for the New European Bauhaus, among other things. This initiative embodies some important values that I believe many citizens can relate to, creating a more beautiful, sustainable and inclusive Europe. I'm excited to take the responsibility of further developing the New European Bauhaus. The EU will continue to deliver on the goals set out in the European Green Deal. And the New European Bauhaus will play a crucial role in achieving this. I discussed this with President von der Leyen earlier this week. We have already accomplished a lot, or you have already accomplished a lot. Up to now, the New European Bauhaus has mobilized more than 500 million euros from different European funds. Over the past 4 years, the initiative has grown into an EU-wide movement, starting in local communities, bottom up. Today we have, as we have heard, a community of more than 1,500 members, many of you which are joining us today. From the very beginning, the heart of the initiative has been its community. All of you together are the crucial engine driving the initiative forward. You have brought projects to life, created connections and sparked conversations that reach far beyond the Brussels bubble on sustainable housing and beyond. As we move forward, I will continue to support your efforts as ambassadors, innovators and changemakers. With my portfolio covering environment, water resilience and competitive circular economy, the new European Bauhaus fits very well with our priorities. By integrating the new European Bauhaus with our work on the competitiveness, circular economy, climate action and environmental protection, we can unlock new opportunities. And I would look to explore new areas such as textiles and fashion, which was a topic of the new European Bauhaus Festival last year. I believe that the Bauhaus concept can play a big role for sustainable growth, to reduce waste and pollution, and to create a more resilient and regenerative built environment. This is about harnessing the power of creativity, innovation and collaboration to drive meaningful change and shape a more sustainable future. As a commissioner, it's important for me to show that we can deliver tangible results for citizens and businesses. This is why I'm keen to visiting in the regions and different new European Bauhaus projects on the ground. I also see synergies with viable cities. And last but not least, we need to continue to work on the new European Bauhaus with our Ukrainian friends as part of the reconstruction efforts. So I wish you all an insightful and inspiring event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. It's great to see the new European Bauhaus under strong and clear leadership. We will be looking deeper into all of these different topics in a second. And please stay with us as we take a very short break. Welcome back. We have reorganized and now we can delve deep into our first topic for today. And I am very pleased to welcome on stage two very important colleagues. First of all, Vera Windhagen, who's the acting head of unit for the new European Bauhaus here in the European Commission, and she will remain with us throughout the event. And Eva McAllister-Lopez, who's a policy officer in the new European Bauhaus team. Welcome to both of you. Now, we will both be talking about, or they will both be talking about, the upcoming new European Bauhaus facility. The NEB facility will be the NEB's first multi-annual financial support instrument for 2025-27. And this new funding tool aims to support the revitalization of neighborhoods to make them more beautiful, more sustainable, more inclusive. Now, the roadmap for the NEB facility will be released in February next year, following a very extensive consultation process that included visits to member states and input from a whole very wide range of stakeholders. And I would like to also take this opportunity to extend a special welcome to the members of the strategic configuration of the Horizon Europe Programme Committee, who are watching us today and who have worked with us very closely all along the way. Now, we will start with Vera introducing the objectives of the NEB facility and also sharing insights on the consultation process, including also the lessons that we've learned in this context. And then Eva will present the outcomes of the consultations and the role that they will play in the roadmap. Vera, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So about the facility and why we came up with the idea of having a facility. Until now, in the last 4 years, the European Bauhaus had yearly calls. So we had to arrange every year the funding and the process for the European Bauhaus. We wanted, with all the results that we have so far, we wanted to go deeper and we wanted to scale up good projects faster. So we wanted to have a longer term program, and that is what the facility is. So we go deeper and we go wider. We have more time for research, more funding for research, and also more funding for scale-up actions. So the facility itself, I'll be very brief on this, is about 120 million per year on research topics and complemented by a rollout component that will have support actions to scale those research topics up. For this, as Adalbert, you were saying, we have we did almost a year-long consultation process, and that consisted of 2 parts. It was a survey, an online survey that people could answer, and we also visited many member states, almost every member state, and that was very insightful. Because it gave us a lot of input on the topics itself, but also the process that the European Bauhaus has been going through so far. We made a lot of new connections, so I hope that also a lot of people from the consultation process are also watching us right now. So, and as you said, the roadmap, the document that will summarize what the facility does, will be published in February next year, but we thought it would be good to have this session today to already share with you our first insights, what people said, what the most important topics were, but also give some key elements, some key insights in how the facility as a process should work. So both of these topics is what we will address a little bit today, and that's what you'll see in this schedule this morning. I think that's it for now. I think Eva is on next. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much, Vera. After getting an overview of the NEB facility as such, we can turn now to another crucial aspect of the consultation process, which is the survey, which was really very important in gathering perspectives from a broad range of stakeholders and the member states, and something that enables us to refine the facility's priorities and implementation plans. Eva, over to you.
Thank you, Adalbert. So the questionnaire was open between June 20th and October 1st of this year. In this period, it received a total of 323 contributions, of which 300 were general stakeholders and 23 were national authorities. But it should be noted that not all of the respondents answered all of the questions, and additionally, some respondents were removed from the analysis because they did not consent to the processing of their data. At the broadest level, we can divide the types of respondents into 2 categories: national authorities and general stakeholders. The analysis, however, largely focuses on the general stakeholders' data, as they represent 93% of the contributions, and also a broader range of perspectives. The national authority data is useful for a different reason, because it provides very specific insights from each of the countries, and is usually taken separately. Among the general stakeholders, we see in the graph a wide distribution of countries represented, mostly coming from Spain, Belgium, Germany, France. And a mix of stakeholder categories is also represented, with nearly half of all general stakeholders coming from academia or a public entity. NGOs also account for a smaller percentage of the respondents. When asked to indicate the sectors that best describe their activities, most respondents classify their fields of work as research, architecture, public service, and/or design. When asked about the scale at which they work, respondents mostly appear to come from national or EU levels. Moving to the next slide. The structure of the analysis mirrors the structure of the questionnaire, which we have laid out for you here. It's divided into two main pillars, as is the roadmap. One component is the research and innovation component, and then we have the rollout. The research and innovation component is further divided into three focus areas called destinations, each with their dedicated set of themes. And then national authorities were given the opportunity to additionally respond to a third section on implementation, specifically between the national level and the EU level and how to best collaborate to implement the facility. Next, going to the next slide, we can take a look already at the first question, which asked respondents to, quote, rank the priority level of each of the three destinations from 1 to 5, with 1 being not a priority and 5 being a very high priority. We find that destination 2 emerged as the destination with the highest priority according to respondents, closely followed by destination 1 and then destination 3. However, you'll notice that all three destinations were seen as quite a high priority. And then the facility envisioned a list of themes for each of the destinations, for which respondents were asked to answer 2 questions. 1, to list specific research they deem necessary under each given theme, and 2, to indicate the type of project that would best define that theme. The options they were given were coordination and support action, or CSA, innovation action, or IA, or research and innovation action, or RIA. And with that brief overview, I'll give it back to you, Adelbert.
Sounds good. You're not yet completely off the hook, because I think we would really want to understand a bit more what you found about each of the destinations. So what about destination 1? What did you find out?
Thank you. So destination 1 is connecting the green transformation, social inclusion, and local democracy. The first question, this open response question I described in the last slides, received substantial amount of responses. The objective in analyzing these responses was twofold. 1, to assess which concepts emerge as the most frequent or of most interest or need to the actors on the ground. And 2, to harvest concrete and novel ideas to feed a more innovative roadmap. The responses were synthesized into thematic clusters, which you can see in green on the slides. It was a product of a 2-pronged methodology that both extracted general trends and also accounted for outliers. The emerging clusters are based on input from destination 1, and they largely confirm what has been envisioned for the roadmap. Thus, they can be regrouped into 4 main work streams which define destination 1 in the roadmap. For instance, community engagement and participation, and urban nature and social infrastructure are 2 clusters that emerged quite strongly and group well together as a work stream focused on, quote, the social impacts of the built environment. Other important clusters include governance and decision-making, local resource mapping and asset-based development, behavioral insights, social inclusion and equity, and these mapped on to the main work streams that you can see on the right of the slide. Additionally, there are certain clusters, which we call secondary clusters, which connect to the main work streams transversely rather than directly. For instance, digitalization and technology covers responses that emphasize the potential of digital tools and platforms to enhance participation, engagement, and decision-making, which is relevant to several work streams simultaneously. However, others caution on the pros and cons of, for instance, relying on AI as a means of increasing citizen engagement. Then cultural and creative industries, this cluster also has responses that are a bit divided in their support for its necessity specifically in the R&I component of the roadmap. These mixed perspectives prompt further consideration of how to best integrate these clusters into the roadmap. Next slide, please. The other questions respondents were asked for each theme was what types of projects, so CSA, IA, or RIA, should Destination 1 themes be? The table here lists all the themes proposed under Destination 1 in the questionnaire, and the level of support each theme received for each type of project. National authorities are listed alongside the general stakeholders here to help us visualize where there is overlap versus difference as an additional measure of consensus. General stakeholders and national authorities do tend to answer a bit differently when it comes to deciding what types of projects the themes should be. For instance, general stakeholders have a more equal distribution of preference for the different kinds of projects, whereas the national authorities tend to consolidate their support in one type of project, namely research, innovation, actions, as you can see for nearly all the themes in Destination 1. General stakeholders and national authorities agree, however, that themes such as the use of technology and AI, design of public spaces, and the role of emotions should be research and innovation actions. With this, we see a broader pattern, however, across general stakeholders and national authorities that suggests there might be a slight divide in the preference for investing in coordination and support versus fundamental research, respectively. And with that, I'll give you back the floor.
Thank you very much. You clearly have a lot of very, very rich insights for Destination 1. What about Destination 2? Was it quite as successful as that as well?
Hopefully quite interesting as well, as you'll see. So Destination 2 is on circular and regenerative approaches for the built environment. Thank you. The emerging clusters, once again, largely confirm what has been envisioned for the roadmap. They're in green once again. And to take an example, integrating circular and regenerative approaches in design, circular economy and waste reduction, and accessibility and adaptability are three clusters that group well together and provide a good work stream, or they come together as a work stream on regenerative and restorative approaches in design. Other primary clusters include the role of materials in circular and regenerative approaches, AI and digital tools for material design, digital platforms for circularity, data processing and sharing, and environmental impact and life cycle assessment. These feed the corresponding work streams, which you can see on the right. Secondary clusters are in blue. These include education, knowledge exchange, and skilling, for which we observed, once again, various mixed comments, and aesthetics and cultural integration, in which the value of design aesthetics was related to a variety of different topics, including material design, construction approaches, regenerative principles, and well-being, making it a transversal cluster rather than a focused work stream. Next slide, please. On the whole, the general stakeholders group and the national authorities group tend to agree on the themes for this destination, for what kind of project each theme should be. As you can see, where rows are highlighted in green is where they agree. Most often, both groups agree that topics should be RIAs, or themes should be RIAs. Topic 9, however, is one of the few topics, or theme 9 is one of the few themes for which RIA support is the lowest across both groups. This result stands out, given the overwhelming tendency of national authorities to favor research and innovation actions. This finding suggests that respondents might favor integrating the creative and cultural industries dimension at a more horizontal level rather than directly as a main work stream, as we saw in the previous slide. Respondents still do value, however, art and cultural heritage as a crucial dimension to consider in the revitalization of neighborhoods, as demonstrated by numerous contributions, acknowledging, for example, that it is, quote, quite a pivotal subject. And that's where I'll wrap up Destination 2.
That's also extremely rich as a set of insights. What about Destination 3?
I hope also equally interesting. Destination 3 is the destination on innovative funding and new business models for the transformation of neighborhoods. Emerging clusters in green, once again, confirm what has been envisioned for the roadmap. For instance, we have clusters on incentivizing sustainable development, investments, policy and regulation, and behavioral studies from the perspective of consumers and investors. These are three clusters that emerged and group well together as a work stream on market dynamics and conditions. Other primary clusters include considering aesthetics and inclusivity in sustainable and regenerative construction, circular economy and waste reduction, and public and private partnerships. These map on to the corresponding work streams that you can see on the right of the slide. The secondary cluster we have that emerged is in blue, and it is skills and education. Skills is mentioned extensively and is clearly valued by respondents, but is often worded or phrased in the context of coordination and scaling rather than fundamental research, which is why it has been put as a transversal cluster here. Next slide, please. As a group, general stakeholders find that a majority, so 7 of the 12 themes, should be classified as coordination and support actions whereas national authorities still primarily favor research and innovation actions. That said, Theme 12 is an exception where national authorities demonstrate greatest support for the CSA category in consensus with general stakeholders. This rare overlap suggests that strengthening education and skilling is thought to be less of a research priority. Some respondents also affirmed, and I'll quote here a response, that it is hard to find a research and innovation component on this issue. It should be considered to be supported out of the R&I facility. Skilling and education may be considered as cross-cutting most topics, but not necessarily to have a separate topic. So due to a number of similar responses, this topic does not have a dedicated workstream in the R&I component of the roadmap. And with that, I'll finish Destination 3.
Thank you very much. It sounds like when it comes to the research and innovation side, we have really a lot of food for thought thanks to the survey. But of course, that's only half of the European Bauhaus facility. What about the rollout component? What about making change on the ground? What did we find out?
Indeed. So moving on to the rollout, the questionnaire envisioned 16 rollout themes, for which respondents answered the following question. Should the rollout component focus its action on insert theme here? If I could get to the next slide, then you'll be able to see the themes. But in the meantime, we see that all topics received a good deal of support, some more than others, however. The themes have been so there are certain thematic clusters that emerge from this list of themes that we have. We found that there is great support for innovation on the ground, also solutions for a community-based transformation of neighborhoods, followed by conditions that enable change, for example, innovative funding and skilling, as we saw in the previous R&I component. Then there are certain themes that receive less support. However, the same clusters are discernible. Notably, all the clusters received more than 50% support. Here's a nice visual of the themes that I was referring to. So as you can see, not to fixate on the minute differences in percentages in support, but to look at the broader ways that they cluster together and where we see patterns in support. The three clusters that emerge are in yellow, blue, and green. And if you go to the next slide, we have the themes that received slightly less support, but still a substantial amount of support, over 50%, which confirms that all of these can be considered for the roadmap. And with that, I'll finish on the rollout.
Thank you very much. We've got really quite a rich set of insights, information, and data from this survey. Let's maybe now take a step back and think of the key conclusions that we can start drawing from these insights.
Yeah.
Vera?
Well, I think the general, and we're very happy with that. The general conclusions of the survey itself are that it confirms very much what we were already thinking. So that's a very good sign. That and the presentation itself, Eva, was very detailed also because we wanted to take it really seriously. We really looked at the data. We really tried to take that as the building blocks to develop both the different work streams that will be presented in the Horizon Europe work program, but only next year. So that's why we cannot go into specific topics for calls, for example, but also the different elements for the rollout component. So this confirms a little bit what we were already saying and what we were already working on, with some additional themes. So if I zoom out, roadmap itself will be presented in February. Calls will come out April, May next year. But we also learned a lot from the visits to the member states. And I think there's a common thread, and that is also what we used for the session today, what people told us. So in general, next to the topics, people told us you have to do more for small entities. So you have to do more in when we met the stakeholders, when we met the different countries. what do you do and how ready are you to cater? And I think it's something that has been there in the European Bauhaus from the start, that we attract a different type of stakeholders than we usually have. So that's something that we will come back in the roadmap, but also already today. And then another topic that came up was what makes a NEB project really NEB? So what does it mean? I mean, we have different funding programs, but can I also do my own NEB project without any funding, for example? And how do I know if I would like to apply for funding later on, what a NEB project then is? So that's, I think, some of the common themes that we retracted, but also that we already want to present today, so that you can use it in the run-up for next year.
That sounds great, and thank you very, very much for all of these insights. And of course, we will also be delighted to answer any questions that you may have that you are asking on Slido as we speak. Please don't hesitate to use the code #NEB, and we will collect the questions and answer them at the later stage on our website. Now, we will again take a very short break in order to reconfigure ourselves and then welcome MEP, the former rapporteur for the new European Bauhaus report, Marcos Ros, in order to speak with us about the NEB European Parliament pilot project for small entities. So stay with us and see you very shortly. Welcome back, everyone. As we continue today's discussions, let's now focus on a very, very important aspect of this initiative, which is about supporting small projects and grassroots initiatives, something that's at the core of the new European Bauhaus. These local initiatives are often where real, lasting change occurs, but they can also face very significant challenges, especially when it comes to accessing funding. And that's why the new European Bauhaus has placed such an emphasis on empowering those efforts and helping them create meaningful change on the local level. Now, to support these local actions, the European Parliament tasked the European Commission with developing a pilot project called Stimulating Local and Regional New European Bauhaus Grassroots Projects. Now, this pilot consists of two complementary initiatives. There is an innovative funding advisory hub and the NEB Boost for small municipalities. Now, to look deeper into how these initiatives are shaping now the future of grassroots projects, we will talk to Marcos Sempere, who's a member of the European Parliament from the group of the Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats, and who has been a very good friend of the new European Bauhaus and a real advocate for these efforts. And he will share his perspective on how the new European Bauhaus is helping empower small-scale initiatives. We will also then hear from a representative of an actual small project, Anya Kodjabasheva of the Collective Foundations, who will provide insights into how this is really working on the ground. So Mr. Ross, again, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. You have supported the new European Bauhaus. You have been involved from the beginning, from the European Parliament. How did this idea come to life?
Well, thank you very much for these questions. Yeah, indeed, we have been working with the New European Bauhaus initiative since the very beginning. In 2020, in the State of the European Union debate, President von der Leyen addressed this initiative to every one of us. And we think that in that moment, we thought that we need to collaborate with the European Commission. We started to work at the European Parliament. Then we tabled and adopted our report. And in our report, we asked for more financing to small municipalities also. And now this idea of supporting small municipalities and small projects came after 4 years of working hand in hand in all parts of the European Union, giving conferences, participating in events, and all small municipalities ask us, how can we start working on small projects for containing new European Bauhaus values? And for us, it's very important not only to arrive to big cities or to big works of refurbishing neighborhoods or buildings, but also to arrive to small scale projects when we are talking about renovating a small building for municipality or for public use, or renovating a small square at the center of a town or something similar. And we wanted to support them. And so as a member, I have the opportunity to present a pilot project. I presented this pilot project after working hand in hand with the Committee of Regions and also with the European Commission, with the Joint Research Center. It was qualified as an A project and finally adopted in the budget for 2024, and now has been renovated in the budget for 2025. And I think it's going to be a good idea to put in practice this support for small projects.
Great. Let's look into this in more detail. So what is really the importance of these small-scale initiatives for the delivery of the new European Bauhaus?
Well, I think it's of higher importance, because when we think about new European Bauhaus, we are all thinking about the renovation wave, that we are going to invest a big amount of money in renovating in terms of energy efficiency our buildings and our built environments, our urban environments all across the European Union. And it should be a loss of time or a loss of effort if we only think on renovating on energy. We have to think also in quality, in beauty, in inclusion. We cannot leave people behind, no one behind. And this is the principle, the core values of the new European Bauhaus. And when we are thinking of not leaving anyone behind, we are thinking also in small municipalities, small projects, small enterprises. And this is the reason we want this pilot project to be with two phases. The first one is a hub in which we are going to try to put in contact developers and financiers of small projects, people who want to develop a project but don't have the money, or people who have the money but don't know how to develop a project. This is the hub. Or people, enterprises, organizations, public administration that want to develop a project but don't know where are the funding sources. The hub will provide them with all the information. And on the other hand, we have small municipalities that don't have, for example, sometimes they don't have a technician. They don't have a person to draft a project and present to some calls. Well, this pilot project will support small municipalities under 20,000 inhabitants with a voucher we ask for a voucher between 30,000 and 50,000 euros to develop this, to draft this project, to make the project. Then afterwards, if they want to develop the project, they will have to look for another funding sources, but with the background that they have been awarded with a new European Bauhaus voucher coming from this pilot project, which is a sign of quality.
It's really about empowering people to make the change that they want to make. And what are your hopes for the future of the new European Bauhaus in general?
Well, I think the new European Bauhaus is going to be crucial in this term. During the past term, the European Commission and the Parliament, we were working together to develop a lot of initiatives, and now is the time to see how they are implemented in the territories. For example, we will have all the 500 million euros coming from Horizon Europe, from the new European Bauhaus facility. You have talked about that before. And they are entering into force 2024 with the new European Bauhaus destination, but the following 3 years with the new European Bauhaus facility. And this is going to be of higher importance because universities, technological research center and enterprises are going to start developing solutions that afterwards will be implemented all across the European Union. Or, for example, we will see how in different countries, ERDF fundings will be addressed with new European Bauhaus criteria. For example, in my country, now the new call for integrated urban initiatives are going to be overvalued if you match with the new European Bauhaus values, sustainability, beauty, and inclusion. So I am confident that the new European Bauhaus initiative during the following years is going to be very much developed.
That's really inspiring. I really look forward to seeing these projects take off the ground. So thank you so much for being with us and for explaining all of these great developments. We also have a guest who's joining us online. That's Ani Kojabasheva from the Collective Foundation, which is a small organization from Bulgaria that brings together different actors to transform our shared built environment. Welcome, Ani. Can you tell us a bit more about all the efforts that you are undertaking on the ground and what you are doing with the Collective Foundation? How did it all started?
How did it start? It started 4 years ago, around the same time as NEB, actually, with this mindset of we want to do something here right now. I have some slides as well, which I can show you that give you a little taste. So we were a collective of people with design, architecture, construction backgrounds, and we just had this sense in 2020 that the issues are so multiple. It was right after COVID as well. Between COVID, global warming, here in Bulgaria, also citizen disengagement is a big topic. People having the sense that not so much can really change. So we really felt this energy that we want to show that something else is possible right here, right now, and not in some distant future, but with what we have. And that we're a little impatient and we just want to build it, that we want to build the change we want to see. So we just started, even before we had any big projects lined up or anything. The first thing we built was this Rivers of Sofia festival. So we like to choose places that seem hopeless, that are kind of the worst. People avoid them. They don't want to go there. And we like turning it around, doing this big makeover and showing that this place can be wonderful and that can happen in a month or two, not far, far away someday. So people gathered literally with their families and friends. Artists that were also friends donated work. People we knew in advertising helped popularize the whole thing. And so we just got down into the riverbeds in Sofia city, which are known for being really polluted and inaccessible, unpleasant. We created access with these stairwells made from industrial scaffolding. And we just made a beautiful festival that was colorful, exciting. And so this just started generating hype. So we just like to start on the ground. You know, it's we really are the opposite viewpoint here in this meeting, where we just build and then develop from then on. And when we started that this is working, that a lot of people gather this way, and that it's actually a tool for making long-term change, we've developed as an organization, and now we're working in different cities on the EU level, but it's always with this footprint on the ground. We gather local people, our communities, diverse communities, and we just build something together with art, with festivals, with fun, with these very light measures that just turn the place around and show that something entirely different is possible.
Annie, that sounds very, very inspiring. But you are a small organization and you still achieve so much. This said, what would you say are the biggest challenges for you as a small organization to access all the funding that is there, or other kinds of support? And how did the new European Bauhaus help you with that?
Sure. I mean, I won't be the first to say that it's hard to be a small organization. You know, your survey findings also showed that. And there are also coalitions of NGOs around the EU that have appealed to the EU saying, please, you know, help us more so we can work on the ground. And so I'm really inspired also that NEB is continuing in this direction. It's hard. I mean, accessing resources at the start, we had to pull ourselves by our bootstraps. So it was really trying to be creative and to find what we have in our own community. So it was literally people's parents bringing homemade baked goods for the teams, people's cousins and uncles coming to haul stuff, to drive trucks from one side to another. But, you know, once you start, we found, once you show that you have the willingness and the initiative and that you're showing some results, people gather, and you can be a bit creative in who you involve. So, for example, people that we know who are construction workers joined in to help us build this. We used a lot of volunteer work as well, people who just wanted to make their communities better. But yes, it's wonderful to have structured supports and trust, because if we are going to implement the changes that NEB envisions, we really have to work everywhere, in all communities, in small communities, in neglected places, with the people that know and care about these places. So we would love to mix it up and to have experts who can give us bigger insights about how exactly to do a democratic process, how exactly to facilitate different groups, how to think on an urbanistic level. But we also like to have knowledge from people who are locals, and they bring in really valuable things as well. So just having that mix of the grassroots and the national and European level really, really matters. And it helps to have accessible resources for small NGOs like us, for sure.
Thanks, Annie. All of this sounds very much like the realizing the values of the new European Bauhaus on the ground. And your project is a very valued member of the new European Bauhaus community. Can you maybe tell us a bit more what value that brought to your project? How it changed the course of your project, and what opportunities the membership of the new European Bauhaus community brought to you?
Sure. If you can show my second slide, I'll show you the winning project that we got the NEB Prize for, actually. This is in a smaller town. Sofia is the capital of Bulgaria, so still there. It was a little bit easier to start something new that went big. Here we went to a small city on the Danube that's known for being a little bit peripheral. And we decided that if we can do this in Sofia, we can probably do it anywhere. So we thought we would engage a small community that really had few resources and that hadn't seen something like this recently. So we worked with local students. That was the new thing. We didn't even design and build this ourselves. We involved kids from the kind of the vocational schools, which are seen as lower tier in Bulgaria, as less prestigious, but they have the technical skills to do this kind of thing. And so we implemented their own ideas for what they wanted to have for this site. So it was simple, doable, but it was their thing. So this was very, very small, very low budget, and very local. But it's been truly amazing to see this resonate on a European level. And I really, really hope that this can inspire others as others have inspired us. So through the NEB, it's really been powerful to find ourselves as part of a network in the EU-wide community of people working in their towns, and we've loved the exchange with other organizations like ours. And the other thing is this mix of people with very different expertise, very different knowledge and viewpoints. And through NEB, we connected with international organizations. We're now part of a European Interreg project, where we are someone who's testing stuff on the ground, but we're informing research written by scientists about how this stuff actually works. We're consulting with other cities in 8+ different countries about how they will do this on different scales. We have super local, like us. We have city and regional scale, like Stuttgart region in Germany is a partner. And so we'll be exchanging knowledge about how this kind of community change works on all of these levels. So it's wonderful because it's in our name, right? We're the Collective Foundation. We like to connect very different people and resources. We like to discover untapped resources locally. Oh, it's this youth that have the skills to change their own city. Let's empower them. It's these abandoned sites that seem like they don't have any value, but we can valorize them. Let's tap, our connections in the construction industry, advertising, this and that and the other. And if we have this kind of really interdisciplinary coalition on the European level with scientists, with innovative funding, as people were mentioning in the previous presentation, with all of these different fields, if always our aim is to build stuff on the ground and to create real change on the ground, then we can really achieve a lot on the EU level, I believe.
Ani, thank you so much for bringing to our event today some Bulgarian sunshine and the power of your community and of all of your connections that you have made across the EU. We'll be looking a little bit more in depth into the new European Bauhaus prizes in the next session. But before we do that, let's maybe wrap up with Vera, if you can share some final thoughts on the next steps for the European Parliament pilot project, and also tell us a bit more practically how we can find out more information.
Yeah, I'm super happy with both of your presentations, because it really shows, I think, what the core of the European Bauhaus is, and also what it should do, and also how this, I don't know, a replication effect or ripple effect actually works. You start small with a small initiative, and then you connect with a European network. That's exactly what we wanted in the beginning. So about the two actions, and I think Marcos Sempere said it already, we will have an advisory hub, an interactive IT platform that should facilitate the funding of small projects, so bring demand and supply together. It will host social economy investors, philanthropy organizations, and other private and public investors, where small projects can be attached to. And the IT platform is the matching platform that should bring both of them together. So we should have then also different types of funding, private investors, for example, joining us in the European Bauhaus. The open procurement procedure will be launched in the first quarter of 2025. So then the ball starts really rolling, and that's when you can expect that we'll have it quite soon. And then for the pilot project, the boost or the vouchers for small municipalities, we go in the same rhythm as the prize usually does. So it will open early next year, and the award ceremony will be in a similar pace as the normal prize, but with a different and a very special ceremony specifically for small municipalities. So that's what I can say now, but stay tuned, because all our information will be very soon on the website.
Thank you very much. That's already very helpful. And of course, if you have any further questions already at this stage, please don't hesitate to use Slido as said, with the code #NEB. With this, we've reached the conclusion of our short session on the European Parliament pilot project and the small-scale initiatives. So thank you very, very much again to both of our speakers, Marcos and Ani, for joining us. We will now take again a short break before we delve deeper into the new European Bauhaus prizes. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for being with us. As part of our previous session, we already touched on the new European Bauhaus Prizes and how they can support innovative projects. Now let's dive a bit deeper into how these prizes are making a real difference by celebrating initiatives that embody the values of the new European Bauhaus. By spotlighting projects that really exemplify sustainability, inclusivity and beauty, the prizes aim to help inspire change, elevate impactful initiatives and also provide visibility to those working to transform communities, lives and society at large. It's really a great moment in the new European Bauhaus year when the prizes happened. Now we are joined on stage today by Alexandra Biscaro, who is a policy assistant for the new European Bauhaus in our Director General for Regional Policy. And we will also hear from Tim Cousin, who is the co-founder of the NEB Prize winning project called Roofscapes. Now, before we dive into their insights, I would maybe invite Vera to give us a little bit of an overview. Vera, for those who may not be so familiar with the NEB Prizes, can you explain a bit how they contribute to the broader goals of the new European Bauhaus and how they're making an impact on the ground?
Yeah. Well, first I'll explain a little bit why we started with the prize. Give a bit of context. I think a lot of people by now know what the prize is, but I'll just do a short recap, and then I'll say a little bit how it evolved. So the prizes were there from the start. It's one of the first things I think we established, and it had an annual rhythm to bring really visibility to the most innovative projects and ideas that embodied the NEB. And in the beginning, we did not know, of course, what a new European Bauhaus truly meant. So with the first editions, we really thought that's indeed what a beauty element could be, or that's indeed what. So they really embody the core values of the new European Bauhaus, and also made it very visible what it is. So the award always establishes is always for established projects, so more mature projects. But we also have a strand for ideas that are developed by young, promising talents. So a prize for people under 30, but they both embody, of course, the European Bauhaus values and also the principles. You see in the past editions a lot of emphasis, for example, on the participatory approach, or working in a transdisciplinary way, really with citizens at the core of the projects that you'll see. So, as you already said, the prizes have been fully funded through cohesion policy. So I'm very happy that you're also here with the colleagues from DG Regio, and that has always been a very special moment throughout the year when we award the prizes. So we had so far more than 5,000 applications in the 4 editions, and I have to look at my notes, but 1.5 million to spend on 72 winners. And what is nice is that once you win a prize or you are a runner-up, you also join the network of the European Bauhaus, a little bit like what was already said. So it brings also your expanded network a lot further, and that goes a lot faster. Prices range from 10,000 to 30,000 euros. So every year we have the differences between and we usually have a strand that is special, a special theme for the year. So last year we had a special theme on Ukraine, and now we emphasize also Ukraine, also in the broader network of everything that we do with the European Bauhaus. As the Commissioner already said in the beginning, it's an important part of our work strand. So what it brings, I think it's one of the key engines of the European Bauhaus. It's one of the key small actions, but with a very big reach, very big visibility, and also a kickstart for a lot of other actions that could come later on.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing this overview, and also as a reminder, we're of course ready to answer any specific questions that you may have on the prizes, also via Slido. But before going into any more issues of practical functioning of the prizes, let's hear directly from a project that has been part of this journey for a while now. We have with us online in the studio Tim Cousin, who's co-founder of the Roofscapes Studio in Paris and a NEB Award winner in 2023 in the Rising Stars category for young people under 30. Welcome, Tim. Thanks a lot for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about Roofscapes and where the idea came from?
Yes, hi. So thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to share some of our experience working with the new European Bauhaus today. So together with Olivier Faber and Etienne Lévy, I'm the co-founder of Roofscapes. Roofscapes is an initiative aiming at adapting European urban centers to climate change through green and accessible roofs. So the idea behind Roofscapes came to us during our architecture studies at MIT, where we were looking for replicable climate adaptation architectural tactics. We noticed that roofs represented 40% of the horizontal surface of a city like Paris, and that these untapped surfaces could host the green spaces much needed to help the city face summer heat waves, restore biodiversity, and retain rainwaters. So today, if we go to the next slide, today the roof of the city overheats in the summer, especially the zinc, the metal, which covers most of the roofs in Paris, accumulates solar gains, and they can heat up to above 70 degrees Celsius. So then the heat that's accumulated radiates back into the city, where it contributes to the urban heat island effect, which makes the city really suffocating in the summer. But it also conducts the heat down in existing buildings, which last floors becomes really unlivable in summer heat waves. So our proposal that you can see on this picture is a low-tech system of wooden platform that we deploy above the existing roofs without any demolition required. And they enable to shade the building, preventing any overheating from solar gains. But they also host green spaces that recreates biodiversity continuity across the city and store rainwater to irrigate the plants, prevent sewage overflow, and cool the city further through evapotranspiration. So if we go to the next slide, last year we've partnered with the city of Paris through their first ever research and development procurement contract to test our solution through a prototype on the city's Climate Academy. It's a building dedicated to climate adaptation and innovation. And this 100 square meter pilot project was built in 2 months in the beginning of the year. And although this summer was not as hot as the previous ones in Paris, in the peak of the summer at the end of July, we've recorded a 17 degrees temperature reduction. So if we go to the next slide, we've recorded a 17 degree temperature reduction under the roof inside the building between the areas covered by our systems and the ones exposed to the sun. So after this successful first demonstration of our system's impact, the city of Paris now supports the development of the project at scale. And they even made it part of their resilience strategy, which was presented this week at the Paris City Hall. So we're very excited about the next steps.
Tim, that sounds like quite a successful start to your project. But can you tell us a bit more about how winning the NEB Prize influenced the development of your project?
Yes. So I think winning the prize strengthened our legitimacy as actors of the urban climate adaptation, which was very important to gain the trust of the public and private actors that supported us on our first project. At first, our vision for the roofs of Paris seemed a bit out there, and now people are taking it very seriously. We're opening, in a way, a new market, and it takes a lot of time. And in a way, our reputation as urban innovators precedes our experience as builders. So having the support of recognized institutions like the new European Bauhaus really makes a difference and helps us to stand out and convince people to jump on board our project. To realize the vision that we've been carrying for a while now about the future resilience of European centers through the roof. It takes a lot of urban policy and political work. And in Paris, that was one of our big focus points over the last years. And having contacts and support from the European Commission and the new European Bauhaus definitely helps in this discussion with public actors and policymakers in particular. And of course, the prize money is not negligible as well. When we received the prize, we were still very much in our research and development phase. And this type of financial support was instrumental in buying us time to develop the technical solution and the partnerships required to move forward towards the deployment of our project.
So it sounds like the new European Bauhaus Prize has helped you open doors and gave you additional legitimacy that was quite important. Do you perhaps have a specific example to share about how this happened?
Yeah, so again, talking about visibility and legitimacy, I think the prize really helped us, putting us on the map of European actors looking into the topic of urban climate adaptation, in particular at the roof level. And that was instrumental for us. So to give a more concrete example, we were not so long after receiving the prize, we were contacted by other European actors working on the subject of roofs and climate adaptation with various approaches in different European countries. And we were approached by them to create consortiums together and apply together to European call for projects to finance our research and our development. So, these are a process that takes a bit of time, and we started them a while ago. But we've actually learned recently that we received 2 of these call for projects, which is a major step in our development. And I think, yeah, the new European Bauhaus really opened us to this European scale, and we are very excited about these transnational collaborations. We think that the need for climate adaptation and the potential of roofs is of course not a Parisian or a French specificity, but very much a European condition. So we're definitely looking outwards and hoping to expand the work of roofscapes towards other European cities in the near future. So yeah, to synthesize, I would say that the new European Bauhaus Prize really played a crucial part in a succession of instrumental moments that carried roofscapes this far. And we're extremely thankful for that. And yeah, today I would strongly encourage other innovation projects to seek the support of the new European Bauhaus to give them this kind of push in their development.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to see the growth of your project go really through the roof. We will now also have the opportunity to hear more insights about the upcoming new European Bauhaus Prizes, also to think about other potential projects that can join you as prize winners. And for this, I am very pleased to reintroduce Alessandra Biscaro from the European Commission, who will give us a brief overview of the NEB Prizes 2025. Alessandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Indeed, as Vera was saying before, so the prizes have always been about celebrating and showcasing projects that really embody the NEB values. And I think what the prizes really makes it inspiring and remarkable initiative is the fact that they are linked to, they have a connection to tangible actions, and they have the power to also inspire other people to have new ideas that also embody the NEB values. And they have the potential to inform the community. The new European Bauhaus initiative will continue to support this initiative that transform our living spaces and make our cities more, that improve the quality of our life in our cities. And I'm very excited to be here today to introduce to the next edition of the prizes that will happen in 2025. The next edition will bring fresh energy and will introduce some new features. So the prizes will be awarded, as it was the case in the past, to initiative, ideas and projects that embody the NEB values. But this year we will have a special focus on housing, which is a theme in which the NEB values can really influence the life of the citizen of the European Union. Applications will be open to people from all nationalities and all backgrounds, as long as the projects are then implemented in the European Union member states, in Western Balkans or in Ukraine. And applications are open to individuals, organizations or partnership because we really believe that collaboration always brings to the best ideas and that innovation has no boundaries. So I really encourage you all to spread the word and to inspire other potential applicants to apply to the project, because together we can continue to shape the future and promote the NEB values in our society. More information will be available at the beginning of next year so follow our social media and our website and stay tuned.
Thank you very much, Alessandra. This sounds extremely promising, so I really look forward to the next edition of the prizes. As said, stay tuned for the official launch. We'll have further information available on all of our normal communication channels. And before we delve into the next part of our event about the NEB checklist and the self-assessment method, we'll ask again for your indulgence to have a short break in order to reconfigure our studio here. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. As we move into our final session for today, we'll focus on how the new European Bauhaus is turning its values of sustainability, inclusivity, and beauty into practical action. As the initiative continues to expand across Europe, it is really important that we provide clear, actionable frameworks to guide and support the implementation on the ground. Now, to address this need, we are presenting today two new essential tools that have been developed, the new European Bauhaus Checklist and the new European Bauhaus Self-Assessment Methods. Now, these are designed to foster a shared understanding of the NEB's core values and enable them to be really put into practice on the ground. Now, we are joined by François Augendre, who is the head of the Built Environment Unit at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, who will introduce the self-assessment method. Welcome, François. And joining us remotely will be Athina Vlahu from the European Investment Bank, who will present the new European Bauhaus checklist. Now, to set the stage, before we go into the depth, Vera, can you perhaps explain why these tools are necessary for advancing the NEB and how they can really support the implementation on the ground?
Yeah, I think you said it already a little bit. I mean, in the beginning, we had the 3 values and that's it. I mean, throughout the way, it gave a lot of inspiration, but everybody had their own idea of what beauty was, of what inclusion was. And we gradually had to learn a new language in a way, and also a common language. So this is one of the reasons why we developed our first tool, which was the NEB Compass. It's the first document that wrote down to understand each other better. When we mean beauty, we say, and then we had the first collection of ideas. But that was already for a very broad palette of projects. So for school projects, for fashion projects, for the built environment. And we realized if we wanted to have this real common language, that we needed to go more in detail and also needed to go more into the specificities of specific fields. So the 2 tools that are presented now are mainly for the built environment, for public spaces. So they give more emphasis and much more detail than the Compass ever did on these common tools. And I think what you asked is why are they developed? Because we need to have this common understanding. And it should not be only when you are, for example, awarded a prize that you know that you're truly NEB, but you also should be able to make your own assessment of what makes a project NEB. And also private investors need to be able to step into NEB projects, and then they need to know, this is a real NEB project. So again, these tools should be helping the whole facility or the replication effect of the European Bauhaus approach.
That sounds excellent. Thank you so much, Vera. Without further ado, I will now hand the floor to our online guest, so Athina Vlahu, who's an urban specialist at the European Investment Bank, who will present the NEB checklist, really a bit more in depth. Welcome, Athina. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and hello to everyone. So firstly, on behalf of our team, I would like to thank you very much for the invitation to present the NEB checklist. I represent the European Investment Bank and specifically Jaspers. For those of you who do not know Jaspers, it is a technical advisory program, a partnership between the EIB and the European Commission. So I will introduce to you briefly today the checklist prepared by our team in close collaboration with JRC, which is currently under development and will be eventually available to users as an online tool. So next slide, please. So I will start by introducing the aim of the checklist, which is, of course, the assessment, the self-assessment of the alignment of projects with the NEB objectives. We target the built environment, specifically buildings and open spaces. And the checklist was designed specifically tailored to address the needs of small projects. So indicatively, we can say with a total investment cost lower than 100,000 euros. However, it can also be useful for bigger projects for their high-level assessment. Also, the checklist targets users which do not necessarily have a high level of technical knowledge. However, they should be having a good knowledge of the project itself. And for the case of more complex projects, we recommend that the support of an architect or a project engineer that really knows the technicalities of the projects could be helpful. Next slide. So the NEB checklist is, of course, part of a broader framework of NEB tools, creating synergies and complementarities with them. It builds on the NEB Compass. This is the theoretical basis. And similarly to other NEB tools, like the recently published NEB investment guidelines, it highlights the integrated and holistic approach of NEB. And how is this done? Firstly, for a project to be considered as NEB aligned in the checklist, it must reach a minimum level of performance in each one of the NEB core values and working principles separately. But you will see that there is also a set of dedicated questions that assess the integration of the NEB core values and working principles in a single project. So assessing, for example, how aesthetics and circularity come together, So showing eventually that NEB is more than the sum of its parts. Next slide, please. So here I would like to briefly show you the structure and a bit of the logic of the checklist. It is, of course, a checklist, so it's a questionnaire comprised of 90 questions, multiple choice questions. Each answer corresponds to a score, and some of the questions contribute more to the final score than others. And you can see in this diagram the structure of the checklist, which is it is organized around 4 sections: beautiful, sustainable, together, and their working principles. And then in each one of them, we have created a set of 3 subsections. So for example, you can see under beautiful, we refer to the integration to the built and natural environment. We refer to the quality of experience. So this is where we address topics such as personal comfort, promotion of new ways of living, ergonomics, and so on. We have a sub-dimension on identity and purpose. So here we assess the degree to which a project promotes new aesthetic norms that are justified by environmentally and socially responsible choices. Then under sustainability, we have circularity, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and other environmental aspects, touching on topics such as biodiversity, water scarcity, quality of air, soil, and so on. Then under together, we have physical inclusion. We refer to accessibility for all, the importance of reducing spatial segregation, promoting active mobility, and so on. Social inclusion, where we touch on topics such as affordability, equitable use and access, response to the unique needs of vulnerable individuals, and finally, creation of vibrant communities, where we address topics such as the degree to which a project contributes to creating a feeling of safety, support of social innovation, and so on. And finally, we have the working principles, which I'm sure you're all familiar with: participatory process, multi-level engagement, and transdisciplinary approach. If we continue to the next slide, please. Here I wanted to briefly show you an example of a question included in the checklist, just to understand the nature of the questions included, their complexity and difficulty. So under together and under physical inclusion, a question that we have on the reduction of spatial segregation is: does the project aim at overcoming spatial segregation and closing spatial gaps, for example, by regenerating abandoned areas or introducing to them new uses and functionalities? For example, by activating an unused urban open space through the introduction of sports facilities or temporary structures for street markets, and so on. And the possible answers would be non-applicable, yes and no. So you can understand that the questions included in the checklist are simple. On the other hand, they need some thinking, they need a justification, and this is why we say that in some cases and in complex projects, it might be helpful to have support by an architect or engineer in the assessment of the projects. Next slide, please. And this is an example of how the final report looks like, of its structure and logic again, because as I said, the tool is currently under development. This is an example for a fictional project. So you can see that there is a score provided per NEB core value, beautiful, sustainable, and so on. Then there is a separate score in the sub-dimensions, and finally an overall score, which is here, for example, 73%, that makes this particular project exceptionally NEB aligned. In case that the project would not reach the minimum thresholds in some of the specific dimensions, it could be that it requires further improvement. I will not get into detail on this, but you can see in the diagram to the right that we summarize, let's say, the performance of the project across these different sub-dimensions in a single visual. And then in the next slide, you will see that after the final scoring report, we provide a list of useful sources that can help the users and the project owners to further improve their tools. So, for example, we refer, of course, to the new European Bauhaus Compass and Toolbox, and also to the recently published investment guidelines, in which you can find a dedicated section called NEB Investment Recommendations, which has very practical solutions, including design solutions, planning solutions, structural solutions, public engagement approaches, and so on, that can help project owners to improve in the specific dimensions of NEB. So I just have one final slide just to thank you for your attention. And with this, I give the floor back to you, Adalbert. Thank you very much.
Athena, our thanks rather go to you for this excellent presentation with both a general overview of what the checklist is trying to achieve and really a clear idea of its practical functioning. So thank you so much. This said, if anyone in the audience has any follow-up questions already at this stage, please don't hesitate, as said, to use Slido with the code #NEB, and we will look into your questions together with Athena following the event and post answers on our website. But before we do that, we will turn our attention to the other tool that we'll be presenting today, which is the NEB Self-Assessment Method, which will play a vital role in helping stakeholders assess their projects in alignment with the new European Bauhaus values as well. It is my pleasure to reintroduce François Augendre, who's the head of the Built Environment Unit at the Joint Research Center, and who will guide us through this very important tool developed by his team. François, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I will start maybe by explaining what we want to measure with this method and tool, and this is explained on the next slide, please. So the aim of the method is to check the alignment of projects of any kind of size, of construction or renovation of buildings, neighborhoods, or even urban areas with the 3 NEB values: sustainability, beauty, and inclusiveness. For this purpose, we actually subdivided beauty into 2 dimensions: quality of experience and aesthetics. Next slide, please. Now that you know what we wanted to do, maybe you want to know why we wanted to do this. Actually, it's the European Parliament who requested to the Commission to do this work through a preparatory action called the New European Bauhaus Knowledge Management Platform. The Joint Research Center was tasked with this work, and actually we phased our work in 3 different steps. The first step was to make an inventory of all the existing knowledge in the construction domain related to the NEB values in the form of either standards, guidelines, or codes of practice. With all this input, the idea was to create a NEB knowledge management platform to host the self-assessment of projects, but also to disseminate the knowledge. And finally, the last step was to develop actually the method and a related IT tool for self-assessment of projects to assess the alignment of projects with the 3 NEB values. At the end of the process, it's also possible to publish the self-assessment of projects to share them with all the community. To do all this work, the JRC has worked with a team of 40 internationally recognized experts covering 13 different nationalities, and together with them we created this method. Next slide, please. On this slide, I want to show you the list of key performance indicators that have been defined in the frame of this method. The idea is not that I will go through all these KPIs, but it's to give you an idea of the level of details that we have reached. Those KPIs cover all the aspects of the NEB concept, so the 3 values: sustainability, beauty, and inclusiveness. Actually, assessment of beauty and inclusiveness is a rather new concept, and this was triggered by the NEB initiative. On sustainability, there is quite a lot of experience and literature, but the brand new feature is also to integrate all the 3 dimensions into a single method and tool, and to aggregate the results. Next slide, please. So I will briefly explain the process of assessment that the user will have to go through when he uses the method. First of all, we will have to compute a number of indicators related to each dimension or value. and with specific weights for each indicators, the system or the method will calculate key performance indicators and classify those key performance indicators into performance classes. And at the end of the process, a value score will be calculated for sustainability, beauty, and inclusiveness, and will be categorized in one of the three categories, so either low, performance, acceptable, good, or even excellent. Next slide, please. We actually cover projects of different sizes, so it can be buildings, but it can be also urban areas or broader neighborhoods. It can be either new buildings, but also renovation projects, and it covers also residential areas or buildings or non-residential. In all the cases, the method is calculating 29 key performance indicators. Depending on the type of project that you want to assess, the number of indicators needed is different. In this screen, you can see that for a single building, new building in a residential category, you will have to fill 80 indicators to get the self-assessment result. Next slide, please. You will find all the details in the handbook, which is publicly available at the address indicated here, and you can also flash the QR code. In the handbook, you will get, of course, a description of the each KPI. There is also a description of how to calculate all the indicators and compute the results. But more importantly, you will get in each case an example step by step to understand how you can calculate your indicators on the basis of your physical characteristic of your project. Actually, the handbook exists really because it's here. So you see it's rather detailed, it's rather complicated. The target audience is the designers of projects, the teams of development of a specific project. Next slide, please. Given that the assessment is gathering a lot of data, we have also developed a related IT tool. And I will briefly describe here how the self-assessment process goes through using this IT tool. On the screen, I have put 3 different screenshots. On the left screen, you will be asked to define your project by giving a small description, but also defining if it's a single building, neighborhood, or urban area, residential, non-residential, new building, or a renovation. Then you go through a number of different questions for each KPI, and this is what is illustrated on the central screen. For each KPI, you will have to enter the result of the indicators that you calculated with the method. And on the right of the screen, you see that progressively you will see the performance of your project illustrated on a graph. On this example, which is also a fictitious example, the project reaches an excellent level in sustainability, acceptable level in beauty, and a low performance in inclusiveness. Next slide, please. The tool is available at the address indicated here. It enables the users to, of course, use the methodology, calculate the self-assessment, but also at the end of the process, if the users decide so, he can publish the project to make it available to the community. with its self-assessment. The tool is in its final phase of development, so it is already available, but it's in fine-tuning mode. Next slide, please. So here I repeat where to find the handbook, which is the first step to use the self-assessment. In the beginning of next year, we will organize a more technical workshop with experts, where we will give detailed explanation on the method, but also provide hands-on exercises. And with this, I thank you.
Thank you very much, François. This looks really impressive because it's at the same time a very solid piece of research and at the same time a practical tool that brings this research to practical use. So what kind of impact do you expect from this tool really on the ground?
Actually, there are two types of impact we are expecting. First of all, we would like to help the designers team and project teams to assess their project in real time and to understand in which area they have to make additional efforts to go closer to the excellent level of NEB. The second impact, which is subsequent, is that we hope that the end users of the living spaces that have been built or renovated according to the values of NEB experience better life, and also hopefully are proud to live in places which embodied European values.
That sounds like a really great objective. And what is a unique feature of this method?
So as I said already, the unique feature is that it aggregates the three values of NEB. For sustainability, we have several tools to assess already the built environment, but it's the first time that we really aggregate beauty and inclusiveness with sustainability. As also I said, beauty has been separated into quality of experience and aesthetics. But this is really the unique feature is the aggregation of the three to get really an idea of how your project is aligned with NEB.
That sounds great. It sounds like a really great contribution to the development of the new European Bauhaus, and hopefully it will see a lot of impact of this on the ground as well. So thank you very, very much for presenting it and for being with us. Now, both of these tools that we presented today, so the checklist and the self-assessment method, are already available on our website. This is under the section Tools and Resources, and we hope that we will find them already now useful in your work. Now, of course, please keep in mind that they haven't been yet used extensively, so if you face any issues, whether technical or any other issues, we remain very much at your disposal for any questions or feedback that you may have, and the contacts are, of course, also on our website. And we would also invite you to keep an eye on the upcoming issues of the new European Bauhaus newsletter, because, as François also mentioned, we are planning to organize some training sessions, or rather information sessions, to guide you through these new tools. Now, this concludes most of our event today, but before we come to its conclusion, we still have one little surprise announcement for you today. Vera, will you do the honors?
Yeah. So in the bigger scheme of things and all the talks that we had, and we had many talks in last year, which was very good because we got a lot of feedback. People said, you have so much richness, and you see it already in going deeper into the data that we have available, going deeper in the studies that we have available. But sometimes it's difficult to find things because your website is broad. You have so many different fields that you have worked with. There are so many different examples. So what we did with the team is that we set up a process to rework our website, so our own website. to make it more attractive and also to make it easier accessible. So you'll start to see the results now, and I think the new website is there right now with a new categorization, new part of different types of parts on the website that should give an easier access, for example, to the tools that are already there. But you'll also start to see progressively, we have a link to the handbook now on our website, but also the IT tools related with all the connections. Gradually in the next weeks, in the next months, you'll start to see more and more of these easy to use tools, but also links to info sessions. We'll try to do more of these kind of really practical, pragmatic sessions where people can really dive into the NEB language and use it for their own environment.
Vera, thank you so much. We're reaching the end of today's event, and I think what we've really seen today is the fact that 4 years on, the new European Bauhaus is very, very much happening on the ground, and at the same time here in the community driving or coordinating the new European Bauhaus, be it at the European Commission or other institutions, we are continuing to do our best in order to support the development of the initiative. And we've explored some key aspects today: the new European Bauhaus facility and the consultation outcomes, the pilot project, the prizes, the new tools that are coming on stream. All of this will help guide us all in creating a more sustainable, more beautiful, more inclusive spaces across Europe. But of course, this is still just the beginning, and there is a lot of work ahead. The path forward is filled with opportunities for all of us. So we very much encourage you to stay with us, to stay engaged, and for those who are not yet part of the new European Bauhaus community, become part of this really vibrant place. Now, we've shared some important pieces of the vision and of the tools today, but much more is still coming your way. So please do stay tuned for, notably, the adoption of the new European Bauhaus facility roadmaps. So as we said, February next year, there will be upcoming calls for proposals, and there will also be much, much more. So we very much invite you to explore our revamped website and stay connected as we continue to make the system work and also help you obviously develop your projects and all of our future together. Now, very, very big thanks to all of our speakers today and the participants for your invaluable insights and contributions, explanations, but also inspiration. Your involvement is really what makes the new European Bauhaus a reality. To everyone who has been with us today, stay connected with us also through social media. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay engaged as we move forward in our collective effort. Stay creative, contribute to the initiative, and we can't wait to see what new, sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful projects you create. Thank you very much.